Mangione, as you know, was seen as a folk hero to some. Protesters slamming the healthcare industry, saying Mangione is innocent.
I think they framed him as a patsy. I don't think they targeted him. I think they said, hey, here's a kid with good teeth and nice hair who looks like that guy in the camera. Let's string him up.
You consider him a hero?
Yes, 100%.
But he's charged with murder.
Oh, well, we're hoping in a glimmer of hope that changes.
Yeah, we definitely have a reality problem outside the New York City courtroom where Luigi Mangione was arraigned today. At least they dropped the terror charges. It is Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant today on the Chris Plant Show, and we are busier than a one-legged man at a butt-kicking contest today. I will tell you that. It is a very busy news day. We're going to try and get to everything, as well as some of your thoughts on all of the news that's happening. Updates on the Charlie Kirk investigation into his alleged killer, what is going to be known there, and Kash Patel, the FBI director, being grilled in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee. We may get a rate cut today. That is the expectation from the Federal Reserve, even though the one of the governors that President Trump was trying to fire was temporarily reinstated, as the Democrats have done some shopping of judges to get what they want. We'll see what happens there. And as you heard me say earlier, we lost Robert Redford, acting Hollywood legend Robert Redford. You know, he may have been political, but he wasn't one of these loud, irritating political voices out of Hollywood, and he did produce a lot of great stuff. So we'll be talking with some of you about your favorites from Robert Redford. I've already gone on record to say, of all of them, I think it was The Natural for me. I just thought it was a great film, 1984. Different from the book. If you know, you know. But oftentimes the book and the movie disagree. We also have been discussing the First Amendment, which for me is truly sacrosanct. And it is something that is beyond important, to the point where my license plate, the only vanity plate I've had in my life, says after one. Because that was my dad's motto, his personal mantra. After the First Amendment, everything else comes second. And there are 5 things protected by the First Amendment, but you guys probably knew that. Freedom of religion, meaning the government can't establish an official religion or prohibit the free exercise of religion. Of course, unless it means sacrificing babies or something like that. Freedom of speech is the second protection. You have the right to your opinion without fear of government censorship or punishment. Now, that doesn't mean accountability, but you shouldn't be censored. Freedom of the press, which we rely on, opinions and information without interference. Freedom of assembly, meaning you can get together and protest, and freedom to petition the government to address your grievances. That First Amendment, one of the greatest separations that creates distance between America and the rest of the world. And I'm all for people being able to say whatever the heck they want, as long as they understand that if your company disagrees with what you're saying and what you're saying casts a pall on the organization that's paying you, then they have a right to separate from you. That's kind of the way that works. Now, something interesting happened in Springfield, Illinois, since Charlie Kirk's murder. An anchor at an ABC affiliate station went on the air and made a statement. She made a statement about how she was feeling after Charlie Kirk's murder. In case you missed it.
Much for tuning into Marketplace today. So I want to talk about something for a minute, and it is heavy, so please bear with me. I want you to know that it's okay if you feel sadness. It's okay if you're grieving. 2 days ago, I lost a mentor, my first boss, the first person who made me believe in myself, that encouraged me to chase this dream that you're watching right now. Charlie Kirk. There's a lot going on in our world right now, in our country, but I want to say one thing. Lean on your neighbors. Speak up for what you believe in. I don't care what it is. I want to share with you one of my favorite sayings that Charlie would always tell us at the office.
Now, this is an ABC-affiliated station in Springfield, Illinois, the capital of the great state of Illinois, my home state, Chris's home state. And she is a young lady named Benny Ray Harmony. Been there a while, popular, and she's not making a political statement as far as I can tell, is she? Maybe she does. Here, let's listen.
He would yell it from the mountaintops, so please listen. When conversations stop happening, when individuals become wordless, that's when violence begins. So, if you do one thing today, make it be with passion, with conviction. Stand up for your friends, stand up for your beliefs, and speak loudly, even if your voice shakes. Your words have meaning, your values have purpose. Never forget that. Thank you, CK. You changed my life. So
she was suspended. The ABC News affiliated station suspended Benny Ray. And what did she do? She resigned. She was punished for a non-political statement. And I will bet you, hello, anybody over at Newsmax listening, she's telegenic. She can put a sentence together. She's comfortable in front of a camera. She certainly held it together better than I could have done. I'm sure one of the more conservative outlets should be getting a resume from Benny Ray as soon as possible. But she is from Springfield, apparently. Maybe she wants to stay there. Who knows? Spine of Steel. Very well done. The other thing that we've been hearing in all of this is that, it's both sides. Both sides need to do this. As I mentioned earlier in the 6 o'clock hour this morning, 6 o'clock Eastern, the clown car over at Morning Joe was talking about, it's both sides. It's both sides that are involved in this. And the talking points from the Democrat Party must have included an encouragement for Democrats to talk about the Minnesota State House reps that were killed, the woman and her husband, the Speaker of the Minnesota State House who was killed, and her husband was killed, leaving 2 children. And the parallel to the 2 children left without a parent in the Charlie Kirk case, I'm sure that's what they were looking for. So Morning Joe went on a rant today saying, well, nobody talks about the Minnesota woman. Well, that's because maybe nobody really knew who she was. Charlie Kirk kind of had a massive following of 81 million people or plus. I'm not sure if that number. Maybe it's 5 million people, $81 million of revenue generated by Turning Point USA. And they mentioned Governor Shapiro in Pennsylvania, whose home, the governor's mansion, was firebombed by someone who is politically tied to Palestine, obviously anti-Semitic. Obviously mentioned, Joe went on a rant about Nancy Pelosi's husband, who's attacked by a crazed lunatic from another country with a hammer. That guy's now serving life. They mentioned Steve Scalise as well, and I give Joe credit because he at least mentioned that the shooter was a crazed leftist. But suspiciously absent from the both sides argument was any mention of the assassination attempts on Donald Trump, one of which actually struck him with a bullet. But we're now hearing from people like Rosie O'Donnell and Joy Reid that they don't believe Trump was hit. They believe they're saying that it's some kind of miracle that his ear has grown back. Can you actually believe that? Yes, they're saying that. So it is a hollow argument, but it's one that was kind of brought up last night on the Five on Fox. And it was brought up by one of the rotating Democrats who sits in on the Five, Jessica Tarlov, who, for all of her, I think the word that Seinfeld used was flinty, for all of her flintiness in her voice, occasionally makes a good point, but mostly irritates me. And last night, she irritated Greg Gutfeld to a point where he went off on a serious rant.
What is interesting here is why is only this happening on the left and not the right? That's all we need to know. There's absolutely no cognitive...
What about Melissa Hortman that we just talked about?
You want to talk about Melissa Hortman? Did you know her name before it happened? None of us did. None of us were spending every single day talking about Mrs. Hortman. I never heard of her until after she died.
She doesn't matter?
Don't play that bullshit with me. You know what I'm saying is there was no demonization, amplification about that woman before she died. It was a specific crime against her by somebody who knew her. The same. Now you could bring up Josh Shapiro, but then you will not bring up, for example, that was a pro-Palestine person. So don't use your. What about this? The fact of the matter is the both sides argument not only doesn't fly, we don't care. We don't care about your both sides argument. That is dead.
Now, that rant went on for another 3 minutes, and it was powerful, and it continued again into the late night program on Gutfeld, which has been paying tribute to Charlie Kirk ever since we lost him. So it's very interesting to see that the both sides argument is now being brought up. I think this is the only thing the left has. I don't believe they can defend anything as it relates to the killing of Charlie Kirk. It's completely defenseless, so they're trying to say, well, the left does it too. And you've got Greg Gutfeld. You also have the vice president who's been saying, as he did yesterday, that it is a problem of the left. And I believe it. I totally believe it. I need to check in on some of you on the phones. Let's see what you've got. Let's go to Ivan in Miramar Beach, Florida. Ivan, welcome to the Chris Plant Show, sir.
Hey, Michael, how you doing, man? Hey, listen, Michael, I'm generally for free speech, but as far as who's the arbiter, that's a can of worms, and it should be noted that the First Amendment prevents Congress from abridging the freedom of speech. To me, a red line should be drawn when it encourages or incites a breaking of the law. In other words, if you yell, for a bad example is kill the Jews, for example, that to me is inciting someone to break the law and causing physical harm to another individual. And to me, the other thing is that there should be a different level of accountability between public speech and private speech. But anyway, those are my thoughts. I'm generally for freedom of speech. But
Well,
it's interesting that Congress is the one that's limited. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Let's go to Mike in Clear Lake City, Texas, just outside of Houston. Mike, you got the floor. What's on your mind?
Yes, sir. I agree with the previous caller. The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, restricts government, not the citizenry. With that in mind, during the China virus, people were told you take the jab or lose your job. It's your choice. But that's not force. We're not forcing you either way. It's up to you. Well, these people that are losing their jobs, they're not losing their right to freedom of speech. They can say anything they want. In return, they're losing their job, but that's not force. I mean, to me, it's a sword that cuts both ways.
I always tell them you don't have a right to a job, unless they want, and this is what the socialists want. They want us to have that UN Bill of Rights, which includes the right to a job. And we're not there yet, at least not yet. Hopefully,
if
never.
I may say one more thing.
Yes, sir.
The old adage, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. Well, in my opinion, yes, you can.
Well, you can.
To the people
No, you can. The courts have allowed that. That case has been proven. So you're right. You're on the correct side of this one, Mike. Thank you, brother. I got to rock and roll. I want to get one more in here. Don in Woodbridge, Virginia. Don, what was Robert Redford's greatest film?
Well, coincidence, I saw a movie last night called The Clearing. It was not a great movie, but he acted well in it. But not only the ones that y'all mentioned, but he was in movies like Out of Africa, The Great Gatsby. My favorite, All the President's Men.
Oh, that's a good one.
Watergate.
Yeah, excellent film.
He was in a lot of them. Barefoot in the Park, Ordinary
Great
People.
stuff.
I mean, I can think of these off the top of my head, you know.
Well done, Don. Well done. Appreciate it. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show.
The Constitution does not say that a person can yell wolf in a crowded theater.
It is the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka in for my buddy Chris Plant, facing the possibility of jury duty today. I expect he'll be here tomorrow. Thanks to everybody who's been along for the ride today. We still have so many things to try and get to, and one of the issues we brought up is, how do you pick the best Robert Redford movie? I know it's not political, but we don't have a lot of time to get into the clips I want to play. I'm going to get to some of the highlights from Kash Patel in the Senate Judiciary Committee meeting, and the corpulent governor of the state of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, has some things to say because he's dancing with the language and trying to distance himself from some, I think he made some pretty clear references when we break it down. You know, the left likes to use the word Nazi, but then when you call them on it, they're like, no, I didn't say that. Well, we have the receipts as well, so we'll get to that. But I want to get to a couple more of you on the phones here real quickly. Let us go to Mitch in Reynolds, Georgia. Hello, Mitch. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show. Mitch, are you with me? Mitch. Well, Mitch is not here. He said he didn't agree with Redford on his politics, which he was pretty quiet about it, but he liked the movie Jeremiah Johnson. And I have to say, that was a pretty good film, too. Robert Redford gone. Died in his sleep, apparently, last night. A big supporter of the independent films, and you have to give him credit for that. Also an Oscar winner for directing Ordinary People. Powerful film from years and years and years ago. All right, we've got Governor Pritzker around the corner. I have some great stuff from Kash Patel and an update on a story that Chris brought you yesterday about a mom who was talking to her kids about some good news, and they said some shocking things. What we learned about the mom and her husband will stun you. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show. It is The Chris Plant Show. Welcome back. Mike Opelka in for my friend Chris Plant. He returns, I believe, tomorrow. And if not, maybe I'll be back. We'll see what happens. But I got a feeling that you show up for jury duty in Washington, D.C., and your name is Chris Plant, you are given the Easy Pass exit. There you go, right there, but back out. You could go out to your car right now or your Uber, whatever's waiting. We will see. We're also in this last half hour remembering Robert Redford, great American actor. I'm not talking about his politics. I'm talking about his performance as an actor and as a director and favorite Redford films. So thoughts on the politics as well as your favorite Redford film, 888-630-9625. Trying to give you updates on what's been happening with the Senate hearing involving Kash Patel. And one of the magic moments happened earlier when Kash Patel really showed how quick on his feet he is. And those of us who've known Kash for years, you know, the guy's razor sharp. But Dick Durbin, who wakes up angry, was trying to catch Kash Patel. He was trying to give a gotcha moment talking about a July 7th memo from the DOJ and from the FBI that was not signed. And Durbin asking that question, why wasn't this signed? Kash Patel was ready.
Stating there is no incriminating client list. Why was this July 7th memorandum unsigned?
Would you prefer I've used AutoPen?
Well, why was it unsigned?
The memorandum had the insignia of the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And in our...
I love the look. You can't see it, obviously, because it's radio. Dick Durbin's face was almost, oh, no, you didn't. Yes, it was a mic drop moment. Would you prefer we use the AutoPen? Would that be better? Kash Patel being asked questions from Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana, one of our favorites, about where are we in this investigation. We know, look, we have the guy that believed to be the shooter. The DNA, his DNA was on the towel that was found wrapped around the rifle that was ditched in the bushes. And they're now talking about the individuals who were in the chat room on the platform called Signal and or Discord. They're on a Discord chat room, and there are individuals who are currently persons of interest. Senator Kennedy exchanging with Kash Patel.
Did Mr. Kirk's assassin act alone?
As I've said since the beginning, Senator, it is very much an ongoing investigation, and I can't speak to the state charges. That's for the state to address on their own, but we are providing them with the same investigatory findings reporting the department. And as I noted to Senator, I believe it was Cornyn or Hawley, that there are a number of individuals that are currently being investigated and interrogated, and a number yet to be investigated and interrogated specific to that chat room. So we are very much in our ongoing posture of investigation.
So others could have been involved?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Very possible that there were other people helping the person who eventually pulled the trigger. And there are all kinds of questions, like how did he get up on that roof? And how did he get away from the campus and drive back home the 4 hours to the family's home? So there are more than 20 people, a lot more than 20 people, according to Kash Patel, who are in Tyler Robinson's Discord chat that are under a full FBI investigation. I got a feeling we're going to get some answers on this pretty quickly. I have a feeling that this is going to turn very, very quickly. At least I hope it does. Remember, right after the shooting, that horrific day, September 10th, just after the shooting, we were all glued to media sources trying to find out what were the details. Was Charlie alive? Unfortunately, he was not. And to those of us who had to see the close-up video, you pretty much knew that was an unsurvivable shot. But we wondered, would they get the shooter? And there was an elderly gentleman who had been shown on several media sources on his knees saying some crazy statement. He kept saying, I know I have the right to remain silent. I have the right to remain silent. And then he was released shortly thereafter saying, no, that's not the shooter. And another person appeared on live television and said, no, his name was Zinn. He's not the shooter. But we saw the shot to the chest, and I knew then those alleged eyewitnesses were full of Bravo Sierra because the shot was to the neck and not the chest. That gentleman has now been arrested. The elderly gentleman has now been arrested and charged, reportedly, with some sort of hindrance of the investigation, which I think that's appropriate. I think that if you're going to mess with the investigation, and this is out of a Utah news outlet, KSL claims the man who initially was thought to claim to shoot Charlie Kirk was meant to draw attention from the real shooter. And there may be something to the fact that this guy was trying to prevent the shooter from being captured so he could get away. We will see. George Hodgson Zinn, 71 years old, arrested for investigation of obstruction of justice in the Charlie Kirk murder investigation. Keep your eyes on that one. That's going to be a critical piece of information. And now I mentioned the Illinois governor. And as we've talked about the both sides now thing for some time today, and how the left is trying to now diminish their involvement in all the violent rhetoric, well, the both sides thing. Governor Pritzker said earlier that, no, I've never said that. I've never called the left or the Republicans Nazis. Never. Well, is that factually correct?
That is completely false. I have never called Republicans Nazis. Everything that he has done has been tearing down constitutional democracy. And that's what happened in Nazi Germany. It doesn't take very long to tear apart a constitutional republic. Indeed, the Nazis did it in 53 days. And our democracy is almost as fragile.
First of all, it's a republic, but that's probably the only time he made those references, right?
And we're seeing it right now. The dangers that we saw in Nazi Germany, especially in the earliest days of Nazi Germany, are the dangers that we need to react to now. If we don't, things will get much, much worse. And so we've got to raise alarm bells to everybody. It's a 5-alarm fire, everyone.
A 5-alarm fire. And then Pritzker tweeted, support Trump? We could be like the good citizens who voted for a tameable Hitler to get things back on track. Speaking out of both sides of his mouth, which is kind of interesting. I see the phones are absolutely on fire, so let us check out what's going on the phones. 888-630-9625. Louise is calling from Mission Hills, Kansas. Louise, welcome to the Chris Plant Show. I have a factoid about Mission Hills you probably don't know.
Yeah?
Yeah, there's a Mike Opelka who lives in Mission Hills, Kansas, and we're not related.
Oh, my goodness. That's not a common name, but it's a very nice name.
And I apologize to him because he gets my hate mail.
Oh, no. Well, there's no hating here. All I wanted to say was I was listening to Mornings with Maria this morning, and she had a very smart guest on who was telling us that a lot of employers have codes of conduct written into their agreements with their employees. And so if you don't want to work at that, if you don't like the code of conduct, then you don't have to take the job.
That's true.
That's basically what it is.
I'm old enough to remember.
Military, yeah.
Not just military, but I'm old enough to remember when sports teams had not just code of conduct, but they also had like hair rules. You couldn't have a facial hair. If you played for the Yankees, you couldn't have long hair. It couldn't come out of your helmets, all that stuff. And now it's anything goes days. But yeah, there generally are codes of conduct that say if it reflects badly on the company, you're diminishing the value of the company, and we can't have that. So that's a great point. Right. Thank you, Louise. Right. If you run into Mike Opelka, tell him I'm sorry. Let us go to Marty in Lexington, Kentucky. Hello, Marty.
Opelka, are you related to him?
Yeah. Which one? Riley? Yeah, it's my nephew, Riley Opelka. Yeah.
Really? Cool.
That's my brother's kid. My brother's kid, and he will be playing in the Laver Cup in California this weekend, playing for the world team, along with a couple other Americans as well. Yes, that's my nephew. Good kid.
Well, the reason I called is one of the worst side effects of the Kirk murder is the people that are happy that he got killed because he deserved what he was saying, those things, and he deserved to die. Same as like the CEO guy, the guy's being arraigned today And what a dark place, what an empty hole that sucks energy out of anybody who's happy about an innocent person with 2 children and a wife gets murdered, and they find happiness in that. That is as bad as anything I can think of about trying about making things better.
Marty, the best thing I could do is quote Charlie Kirk himself, who years ago posted on Twitter X a statement about if you let me get this correct. I want to get this absolutely correct. Charlie Kirk posted this in 2016. You can tell a lot about a person by how they react when someone dies. Those were his words. So remember that, and with any of your friends and how they react to not just this, but any death of any individual. Thank you, Marty. Let's go to Tom in Chicago, listening on the great WLS. Hello, Tom.
Thank you for taking the call. So this free speech thing has 2 avenues to examine it by. One is criminal, one is civil. So on the criminal side, I let an attorney that's more experienced than me talk about that. But everybody's heard of assault and battery. Battery is a physical act. Assault is a threat that is believed by the victim to be legitimate. So threatening to kill him could be a criminal act. Now, on the civil side, which is probably more interesting, if the shooter could be traced to people that were encouraging him to do the act, then both the shooter and those people could be civilly liable for the death of Charlie. Not a lot of money there. But if those people could be traced to the leftist organizations that are encouraging this type of anarchy in our nation, then those nations could also be civilly liable, and we could sue them into oblivion. And I would strongly encourage Charlie's family to explore this avenue, not only for their own financial support, but for the conservative victory that it would effectuate.
Well, I do know, and we've heard it from the president before he left for England, that there are some investigations going into some of the funders of these activities. And I always look at Soros, because if you follow the money from the George Soros foundations that seed all of these leftist clouds, there are a few very questionable organizations in there that need a good looking into. Just my personal experience from monitoring it for all these years. And it started back when Van Jones, before he became the green job czar, he's the guy who said you have to drop the radical pose to achieve the radical ends. And he certainly has done that. Thank you, Tom. Great thoughts, great words. Before we take a break here, I got to check in with Michelle, who's listening in Cuba, Missouri. Michelle, you have a thought on the greatest film from Robert Redford?
I do. I wasn't even a thought when this movie was made, but when I was a little girl, I remember me and Dad watched it and listened to it, the soundtrack, over and over. And when I grew up, I learned how to play The Entertainer on the piano a little bit. But the movie The Sting with Robert Redford and Paul Newman, 2 gorgeous men.
Wasn't Ray Walston in that too? Not to bring up another older gone actor, but yeah, the Sting was a great movie, and it brought ragtime music into pop culture. And that piano piece from Scott Joplin, the guy who gave us ragtime music, I think it charted on the pop charts, which is kind of weird because that was a big rock and roll era. And how many times did you and your dad signal each other by putting one finger on the side of your nose and flicking it forward?
Oh, we never did that. No.
No?
We never did that one.
Oh,
No.
That's how we signaled each other in high school. Like, okay, it's on. We're doing this right now. You weren't like, it wasn't like you were, it was the outside of the nose. It wasn't inside. Now, Michelle, how close is Cuba, Missouri to Springfield, Illinois?
About 2 hours.
Okay,
We're right off of 44. So,
okay.
I
was going to ask you if you knew that newscaster who resigned from, if you were able to see her stuff, but you're not that close. But that's okay. I appreciate you being there. We will take a break, and when we come back, maybe we'll get a couple more Robert Redford thoughts in here, and a couple more random thoughts before we close up the Chris Plant Show. It's Opelka in for Chris Plant on the Chris Plant Show. It is the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka wrapping up my guest hosting duties for the day. And thanking all of you, the vast and unpaid resource department, for being a part of the fun today. Half the fun of this show for me is talking to all of you. And we've heard from so many of you throughout the show today. Yesterday, Chris played a video of a mom talking to her daughters and saying that she had the most excellent news. She just had the greatest news ever to share with them. And that news, the kids were just terribly indoctrinated when they talked about this. They were so excited to hear about this great news. The older of the two, they're probably like 10 and 7 years old, said, President Trump is dead? No, that's not what happened. The vice president's dead, or Elon Musk? No. Turns out she is the wife of a member of the United States military and a school teacher. Horrible. Horrible. Terrible stuff. All right, let me get one more Robert Redford suggestion in here. Let's go and visit with Misty in Wheeling, Illinois. Misty, welcome to the Chris Plant Show. You know who else is from Wheeling, Illinois?
Who?
Charlie Kirk was from Wheeling.
What? Charlie Kirk graduated from Wheeling High School. He's originally from Arlington Heights, and he grew up in Prospect Heights.
Well, he told me the first time I met him, he said, I'm from Wheeling. I did not know that. Okay. I stood corrected. So you have a favorite Robert Redford movie or show?
Yes, I recall when he portrayed the Angel of Death in one of my favorite episodes of The Twilight Zone, very gently, trying to coax a weary and fearful older lady into the other side. I think he portrayed it very well, although he got bad reviews on it. I thought it was so enjoyable. It's one of my very favorites.
Well, it didn't hold him back. Well done, Misty. Thank you for being there. It's Mike Opelka thanking all of you. Till next time.